Me and Cobb got together to do some chatting about the expansion today, and as always, they always end up releasing more information via interviews that they do probably like weeks in advance, and then there's like an NDA on it, and it gets lifted, and then everybody starts publishing it. Well, this one came after the stream is over, but it's honestly a perfect example of what we were talking about on the stream. And one of the big things we talked about was, how Blizzard is handling feedback and how they're kind of putting the right focus on the right areas at the right time, and that they're learning and becoming a much better development organization. And this example here that we have is perfect, honestly. This is a really good one that we're going to talk about. So let's take a look. There's not much to talk about. In an interview with Oz Gamers, WoW lead designer Jeremy Fizell revealed that Renown is coming back for WoW Dragonflight. Unlike a Shadowlands counterpart, you'll be able to progress with all different Renown reputations simultaneously. You won't have to pick one. And so there's like a bit of, I think it's like confusion, to be honest. Like somebody's like, whoever wrote this, maybe not, maybe they didn't choose the right words. Maybe they're not confused. I don't know, but it's causing confusion. The system is being iterated and improved for the expansion. Each of the four main reputations in Dragon Isles will have a separate renown bar that you'll be able to progress on. Blizzard is also looking to incorporate alt friendliness to the system. So let's read what the actual quote is. Looking back extends to recent history too. So they were probably talking about talent trees or something originally, and then taking elements from an expansion like Shadowlands and reimagining them to return to Azeroth. You're going to see an advancement to the renown system that we used in Covenants in Shadowlands, which we think is a really cool way to set up a reputation in a way that feels fresh for World of Warcraft. Jeremy Fiesel says, our four main reputations each have their own different set of renown levels, and that lets us reward you often. It lets us show you what you're doing, what you're getting during the course of unlocking various different things, whether that's cool cosmetics associated with those reputations or getting additional quest lines associated with them or additional gameplay. We wanted to go really deep with all of these different aspects. The new version of Daily Quest is going to be transferring over to a very active, activity-centric system that feels like you're always making progress. And unlike Covenants, you don't have to pick one of these different reputations to gain renown. You can do them all. We're looking at how we can incorporate alt friendliness in the same way that we did in 915 too. So it's a big refresh to the outdoor world. So my immediate thoughts about this, and pretty much everything in Shadowlands, is that they're finally coming up with fresh looks at a lot of this. Kind of, even like Cop said, feels like WoW 2, and a lot of differences that are probably never going to be. These are massive changes. These are never going to be equaled, some of these changes. And I think one of the biggest ones could be possible is the rep system. It's honestly awful right now. It's completely lost its purpose. I think in the beginning of WoW, reputation was probably added to kind of give you some reason to care about the characters you're interacting with. Like, if you look back at what reputations were early on in Classic, it was more about like, these reputations are like, these are the characters we're interacting with. And if I spend enough time interacting with them, I'll become like really, they'll be very thankful for that. And there was some rewards, obviously like a lot of reps were giving power, like character, like actual gear, I guess mostly. But there's a lot of profession things related to them, and that could be a big thing in 10.0 and Dragonflight as well. But I think like ultimately it was kind of just more like a complementary existence to questing. Like it's just, well, you don't need experience anymore, so let's give reputation now. And I think it was meant to, meant to be more like a role playing element. Like, okay, you're gonna spend so much time with these characters that they're eventually gonna like you, and then that's kind of the only reason to do it. Well, fast forward a million and a half years, and we now have a very different type of player playing this game. A person who kind of wants everything for free, and they're calculating the cost differential of their time spent in a video game instead of just enjoying it for fun and kind of getting immersed in it. And then you have comments like this because of that. So let's read some of these comments. And then I can tell you why most of them are very confused. So anyway, this honestly, like, I don't know if these people just like refreshed to leave the dumbest comment possible. This guy has one. It's not like Reddit where you get upvoted. This guy's actually the first commenter. He says renown, spelled that wrong, by the way. It's not a lot of letters, so it's kind of embarrassing when you spell that wrong. Renown was the worst part of Shadowlands. Bold move, Blizz. And all I can say about that is like generally, if that's actually your opinion, that you're saying a lot about the expansion. You're actually saying like, wow, it was a pretty damn good expansion, because this is just not really even that big of a feature. Like, to be saying something like that is the best or worst part of anything. You either didn't really play, like, honestly, and you're just looking for reasons to be upset, or you actually really like the expansion, because there's no possible way anybody could think Renown was the best or worst part of the expansion. It's just not really a thing. You literally spend like so little time on it. They've iterated it to such a degree now compared to where it started as well. But in case you're not really too familiar with how things started, Renown was basically just like a quest. Like, it was just quest progression. Originally, it would be like, every week there would be a new chapter, something that you can do to get Renown. And for a while, it was actual campaign stories. And then eventually it was just dailies, like a weekly to go to the Maw. And then in Zereth Mortis again. And then there was no Renown in 9 point, or yeah, whatever the recent patch 9.2. So it's kind of like to a point where, what was the goals of it? And to me, the goal was to keep you engaged in the content you were doing. So how does that differ from rep? Well, because it's not just do the exact same content. You know what I mean? There's ways that it can be more granular. And I think the biggest thing is that when you have reputation, you might go weeks without getting anything. Like, to go from friendly to honored probably doesn't take that long, right? But to go from revered to exalted, that could take you weeks. Like, I mean, it's a really big jump. Whereas with Renown, every single week you got to Renown. Like, that's just how it worked. And that was the progression system. And so I think a lot of people are confusing the system and the implementation of the system, because that's the only possible way you could think it was a bad idea, right? It's like, it's literally just better than rep in every, I mean, I can't think of any way it's worse than rep. The only thing is you can only get 2 per week. But I think what people are also not thinking about is that it was an amazing way to get caught up. It works so much better than any rep we've ever had. In Renown, the Renown system, if you fall behind, like, especially if you don't play the character, like if it's an alt, you can get 40 Renown in 1 week if you wanted to. So it depends how they implement it, right? Like, what are we actually talking about here? We're not talking about some kind of gated 2 per week system, very likely. Instead, they're just going to use the actual concept of having basically 40 levels of rep instead of 4 levels, like friendly, honored, revered, exalted, blah, blah, blah. They're going to have 40 levels of those, and you're going to get each thing more frequently, and presumably not 40 different things, but they said, you're going to be able to get different, whatever they said, like cosmetics associated with the reps, and getting additional quest lines. So like when you get to 20 Renown, there'll be more quests and stuff. And it's just like a better system. Like, honestly, I mean, I can't really understand any complaints, but these people try. So yeah, a lot of people are just kind of knowing, and to be honest, yet again, this is kind of Wowhead causing this confusion, because they're saying dumb stuff like Renown returning for WoW Dragonflight. And it's like, I mean, that is what Jeremy says technically. I mean, I don't even know. Is this like an actual English promotion? I don't actually know. A lot of times there's some translation errors. Now, I assume if it's Australia, then it's fine. But he says it right here. We think it's a really cool way to set up a reputation in a way that feels fresh for Warcraft. And then here it's like Renown's returning, and it's like you're making it sound, and it's not really their fault. Like, I don't really know what you titled this. And just title it like new rep system. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be Renown. Like, you're using this word and it's just like clickbait to me, right? Like, because people know what that is, and idiots think it's something that it's not. But so you're basically confusing a lot of people into thinking like, man, they're making a decision that's bad here. But the real thing I want to talk about with these comments is these kind of comments. If it's account bound, I'm okay, spelled also wrong, with it, and it's not going to be. So what they're talking about is all friendliness right now. If you don't know what they did in 915, basically they made it so once you get Renown, I guess at 80 in 915, I think it was, 80 was still the cap. You get everything from that rep on every other character. Like, the entirety of it becomes account wide. But if you want to play through the stories and you want to get some of the more, granular stuff that was involved, like kind of like you would get the levels for the follower, or whatever the names of them, the soul binds, and the different traits or whatever like that would be unlocked. That's still something that you continue to climb, and that's considered power, player power or whatever, which people are opposed to for whatever reason. But yeah, in general, like most of the requirement would just be account wide. So I think what people like, if you don't realize that that's what he's talking about, why would you make this comment? It's probably because you think your alts are also going to share that. You know what I mean? Like, if I log on my Death Knight and ding 40 times and get max renown, then my alts will start at 42. And that's not going to happen. But the rewards that you get from it along the way, yeah, probably like 75% of those might be account wide, because it sounds like what he's talking about. I mean, if you're just drawing complete parallel to Shadowlands. But I'm going to tell you why that won't happen. What the thing that people seem to want is won't happen. Because then you have characters like feeding other characters. And so the big question is here with 4 reps, is it going to be like Covenants, where you can get a lot of stuff as plate, but it was only 1/4 of the stuff you can get? And so in Shadowlands, in order to get all the rewards, you would need to do a plate, a leather, a cloth, and a male character through Kyrian, through Night Fae, through Venthyr, and through Necrolord. So you would potentially need to get, I mean, that's a lot of renown. 160 renown? No, no more than that. 200, 320 renown or something. And that's just for the bare minimum, right? And then, there's even more to do besides renown. So are they going to do something like that? We have no idea, dude. Like, yeah, who cares? Like, why is this even an article? You know what I mean? And it's like these people who are overreacting to this stuff. It's like, yo, do you have any idea what reps usually are? Like, I think like people generally don't know what reps are. I think they think renown is covenant. Like, I think they think like that's how it works. It's like, dude, I mean, you literally don't even need to get the reps in Shadowlands. Like, they don't offer anything. It's like, honestly, extremely little amounts of rewards from reps. And I don't think that's going to change, to be honest. Like, it seems like for the last, like, probably 10 years, reps are becoming less and less important. And they're doing more and more, like, subsystems, like, kind of like how we had it in Zereth Mortis. That the rep was associated with a very small amount of player power, and, you were going to get this passively. But the main focus of the zone was the ciphers. And that wasn't a rep system. That was just kind of like a collection system, and it allowed you to make a bunch of cool mounts and stuff. But that was kind of it. You know what I mean? And it was completely independent of rep. It wasn't, you could grind it as much as you want. Like, you can just sit there and get the chests and all this other stuff. And then it was the same thing in Korthia, right? Same thing. Like, you couldn't grind infinitely, but yeah, there was a lot. Like, you would have to really put a lot of time in if you want to get 100% of your daily allotment. And that was, again, I mean, I guess technically for player power in that case, but it's like very small amounts of reward, So I mean, and so prior to that, what we were talking about, like what rep was, I mean, literally the last really important rep I remember was Champions of Azeroth in BFA. The beginning of BFA, you needed that to increase the item level of your neck. And they changed, I'm pretty sure they changed that in like 8.1 or something. Like, it was quick. It was bare quick, bro. And I'm like, that was like the last time rep was actually like super important for your character. I mean, like, really, I guess you can still make a comment about Korthia, but like, to me, I mean, it was rep, but it was like a very different type of rep. It was more like renown than rep. So yeah, I mean, these kind of comments like always confuse me. Just remove time gating for most things, and they'll turn into great features instantly. And so they used to have, like, that's how it used to be, and this is the new version, because people like you just can't control yourself, and you just go and basically kill yourself and make the game very you deplete the game very fast. Let's put it that way. So they don't want that. Maybe it's an artificial way to elongate content. Obviously, probably is, but that's how it's going to work. I mean, it's just not. You're not going to be able to get exalted in one day. Like, come on, dude. Do you think that's actually going to happen? Like, when was that ever possible? Even back in Classic, the grind, quote unquote, would be so far, like, it would be so harsh that to get to the finish line in one day, it's like, dude, that's not possible. You got to do it over a long period of time. You know what I mean? You're gonna just literally blow your brains out if you sit there and grind like Furbolg rep for friggin' 24 hours. Like, come on, man. I think I think a lot of people say they would do that. I think very few people would do that. Anyway, really don't mind Renown and this idea, but I really, really hope they include Renown boost BOA items for alts in 10.0 instead of 10.1. And so I think a lot of these comments, these types of comments, like why? What happens? Like if you just get everything you would want, what do you need a boost for? Like, I'm just thinking a lot of people are not thinking about it in the terms of reputation. Like, honestly, why do you want to be exalted with any of the reps in Shadowlands? I mean, it's seriously like, there was like one good thing, and it was only in Zereth Mortis, the infinite rune. That's it. I mean, like literally, you could have bought gems in season 2 with the one rep. I mean, obviously, if we're calling the Codex rep thing rep, then I guess yeah, that had the Covenant, the conduits. But like outside of that, there's like what? Like there's a couple profession patterns. I mean, like, why do you even want to do that? I mean, I don't know why you would ever do that on more than one character. Like, that's my question. It's like, if you don't actually enjoy doing the content that gives these rewards, and the rewards are not crucial to your character, let alone your alts, why do they need to design it to fit your needs? This is like what I'm talking about. It's like people are giving bad feedback. It's like you're making Blizzard make decisions that don't need to be made. It's like, no, does anybody care? Like, what? So they're never going to allow it to be fully account wide, where you have like, I can gain, I can gain 5 renown on this character and then 5 renown on this character, and it's going to equal 10 in 1 week. Because then you just literally have an army of alts and you'd finish it in one sitting, right? That's never going to happen. So like at best, you're going to have like a checkpoint system where it's like, okay, we have 20 renown. Now we can buy an item that catches us up to 20 renown on that character. Now maybe 30, maybe even 40. I don't know what the number is going to be. But if it doesn't actually have like, if there's no Mechanicos that you need the soul bind from, like everybody who's starting on Chiron, it's like, why? Like, I just don't think people fully think about this stuff. And they're the people who are like saying like, oh, Blizzard doesn't listen. So it's really tough. I mean, I have to say, man, Shadowlands was great. I really do think that. I think this was one of the best expansions they've ever done for sure. A lot of unique ideas, and I think a lot of them were directly feedback from previous problems in BFA and Legion and previous expansions. And now we're doing it again. In Shadowlands, the conclusion is that like we don't want borrowed power. So now we're making an entirely new talent system, which honestly looks amazing. Like I cannot possibly have any fault with that. It looks absolutely the best iteration of all this stuff. So, provided they're doing it for the right reasons, I think it's going to be great. But what's the 11.0 announcement going to be? We heard you. Talent points are too overwhelming. You guys are way too small-minded to think. Like, it's like, what are we, like, just stop with this nonsense here, man. Not everything has to be account-wide. You don't even really play the characters that way in a way that they would need to be. And you don't need to overreact to all these things. Like, I don't know. It's kind of a problem because Blizzard announces these things like a year in advance and nobody has any context for it. And they're getting better about it. But still, I think it just causes a lot of confusion. And then you don't hurt the situation by doing this. Advance all reputations simultaneously. Like what are you talking, dude? That's how reps will work. Like what the fuck are you talking about? It's like why do you even put that in the title, dude? Like it just say this is rep. It's a new rep concept for WoW Dragonflight. That's it. End of the freaking video. Like that's the title. There's nothing else. You don't need to bring up Renown. I mean, he barely makes a point in passing. It's like we really like the Renown system, so we're going to use a lot of the core fundamental features there. It's like that's all that is happening here. It's like the rest is all irrelevant. Advance all reputation simultaneously. Yeah, that's how reps work. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.